You'll never feel ready. Not for the business, not for the change, and not for the life you actually want. I used to wait for that perfect moment, that feeling that says, okay, I'm ready now. It never comes. And while I waited, I watched other people who were less talented, less prepared, win and get the things that I wanted. And that's when I realized that the people who win big don't feel ready either. They just move anyway. And how many times in your life have you watched others achieve the things that you know you're meant for? And looking back now, I've achieved so much more than I could have ever thought with this one life-changing move. Here's how I did it. So when I first started my agency, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no systems, no team, and no guarantees that it would work. But I was tired of living life like a loading screen and always preparing but never actually playing. You ever get that feeling where you feel like you're the only one and not making any movement? So I just said, screw it. I lost my job and I decided not to reapply. And I just took the risk. I made my first offer. I got my first rejection. And for the first time in my life, it felt like I was actually in the game. First few weeks were brutal. I was in unknown territory, taking a quote unquote massive risk of trying to build a business from nothing. And a friend of mine at the time told me and said, wow, that's a big move that you've made, not going back to a job. And I realize now it isn't a big move at all. There was never any risk. I wasn't going to die if I failed. And it was all just in my head. And people think that failure is like falling off a cliff. But in reality, it's more like landing on a trampoline. At that point, I'd reach out to hundreds of people for my business every single day, pitching my services, and no one wanted to buy it, I'll be honest. And doubt started to creep in where I started to question everything. Shall I give up? Is this even for me? I've never run a business before, but every night when I kind of shut my laptop and finished off the day, something weird happened. I still felt proud in a way. I felt like I was moving. I wasn't even making any money at the time, but I was moving. Getting better slowly every single day. And listen, I'm not the most talented person, but I am stubborn and I don't know when to quit. Because I realized that even if nothing was working yet, I was working. And that feeling, momentum, was worth more than any perfect plan that I could have waited for. But once you get over this initial speed bump, you stop chasing readiness and start chasing results. And it's just getting that momentum off the ground. I stopped trying to feel ready and I just focused on what I could control. Showing up, cold calling, sales calls, learning how to run a business on the fly. And weirdly, that's when I started to realize everything was changing. First client came through, then the first payment. First time I realized that I could build something real. And it's not because I was confident, but because I consistently did the shit I disliked when there was literally no reason to continue. Earning 10K a month started to feel like it was within reach. And a year later, the same person who used to overthink every decision built a 6-figure business in their first year from a laptop. And it still doesn't feel real sometimes because I never had moments where I said, okay, now I'm ready. I just kept moving through the uncertainty until I looked up and I realized I was living the life that I used to overthink about. The thing is, you don't need to be super talented. You don't need to be the best. You don't have to have the greatest amount of knowledge either. You just need to be willing to take action and create momentum in a time where it makes absolutely no sense to do that. See, the thing is, feeling ready is a lie. And the truth is, readiness only exists after you start moving. And I want to ask you, how much longer will you wait for everyone else to surpass you just because you got in your own head about the whole situation? The thing is, you'll never feel ready. And that's the point. But if you're someone that relates to this, I want to speak to you directly. Do something about it. One small thing, daily actions. Don't wait till you feel ready because that version of you never shows up.